So I'll just come out and say it. Softball has been probably 20 years behind baseball as far as throwing mechanics goes. I think this is starting to become much more widely known now. I see some amazing fast pitch coaches teaching excellent throwing mechanics now on the web. There are still lots of drills like the wrist flicks that do more harm than good. But in today's video, I want to go over some myths that you may or may not have heard that we can debunk today as far as softball throwing mechanics go. All right, so my first throwing mechanics myth for softball is that you should use a crow hop when throwing from the outfield. It's outdated. We've found better footwork to do. Let me show you what it is. So the crow hop looks like this. I'll catch a fly ball or I'll scoop my ground ball and I'll hop and I'll come back through. That is not the most efficient way to do it. And the big problem here is that when you do this, it makes it very easy to land open. If I land open, I push the ball, I get worse spin, I get much worse velocity. It's much easier with a crow hop to actually screw up your throwing mechanics and land too far forward or too far open, which robs you of velocity. What everyone's doing now instead is called the pro step. And this is just the same from a ground ball or fly ball. But basically, I'm just trying to get my feet into a shuffle as fast as I possibly can. So when I catch that fly ball, I'll step, I'll shuffle, and I'll go. That's it. You can have a little bit of a step behind or your ankles can be in line. Either one is totally fine. But I'm here, I shuffle, and now I'm completely closed. My feet are hovering along the ground, so I'm not wasting time jumping up in the air. And it's a very fast and powerful way to get ready to throw with my chest closed with excellent mechanics. It's much easier to do the pro step with good throwing mechanics than it is to do the traditional crow hop. So the first softball throwing myth is that when you get a ground ball or a fly ball, you have to get it out of your glove and get your arm up into this 90-degree position really quick. This 90-degree position does not come until later. What good throwing mechanics actually look like are not this, but rather this. The hands separate down first and the shoulder pulls back like a bow and arrow. And that's how the best throwers in the world, baseball and softball, actually throw from both the infield and the outfield. So let me give you a couple drills that will help you work on that. All right, so this first softball throwing drill is called the lawnmower drill. And this one, we're basically gonna preset our arm where we would want it when our stride foot lands. And then we're just gonna have a real simple rotation with the elbow going back behind the body. So we're really focusing on pulling the elbow back and retraining us out of that lifting arm action into this retracting arm action. And these are rotation throws. And on these, we're gonna rotate first to our glove side, just to, again, keep training our body to go side to side on our arm action, rather than just up and down. So this is a progression from the lawnmower drill, and is a great warm-up drill for players of all ages. And it's really, really effective at fixing this lifting problem. My next softball throwing myth is also an outfield myth, that you should use two hands when catching it overhead, because then you can transfer to your throwing arm quicker, which means you'll be able to make a better, stronger, quicker throw. That is absolutely false. What happens when you're camped for a fly ball is you want to reach up with your glove hand only, make a one-handed catch, bring it to your center as your feet start to move, and then as your feet catch up, now your arm is ready to make a strong throw. Again, this is how the best throwers in the world do this. If there was a more efficient way, if this actually worked, then that's what you would see on Major League Baseball with players making $15 million in the outfield making these throws. The reason they don't do this is an athletic one. When you reach overhand, now you have to square your chest up to your target, whereas when we're gonna make a throw, our chest has to become perpendicular to our target. So when you make a one-handed catch, you can start to prep early and start to cheat it a little bit if you're actually camped under it. You can start to cheat early and then bring it to your middle as you're ready to throw. And you don't actually save any time. When you're here, if I bring my hand up here for a two-handed catch, I still have to bring it all the way back down, and this will actually negatively impact my throwing mechanics. When I have it here, I can meet my throwing arm at my chest, which is where I want to start my mechanics on every single throw, and then I go back right from there. So reaching up here just makes my arm action longer and less efficient and less athletic. My next softball throwing myth is that you want to get 12-6 backspin on your throws. You're not going to get 12-6 backspin on any throws. The backspin that you're going to get is going to match your arm slot. So if your arm slot is here at like a 130, when I release it, I'm going to get backspin that matches my arm slot. I'm going to get backspin at a 130 rotation. To get 12-6 backspin, I would have to essentially throw from an ear to elbow arm slot, which is very unnatural and produces a lot less power, and no one actually throws from this. What happens is that coaches preach 12-6 backspin so much, and what players do is they dip their elbow, and now with a vertical forearm, they can produce 12-6 backspin, but this is a very poor, inefficient throwing motion, and players typically can't throw over 55 miles per hour with a low elbow. You have to get your external to internal rotation, which is the fastest human movement, and a higher arm slot, you can still throw very hard from sidearm, but obviously you're not going to get backspin down here either. But this arm slot is going to produce the most velocity, but you're just not going to get 12.6 backspin because your arm is not at 12.6. Thanks so much for watching. Check out the links in the description below where you'll find my online softball throwing courses, both for fast pitch and for slow pitch, along with other softball throwing mechanics videos. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you here in the next one.